Yes, now universities faced unprecedented pressures during the lockdown that was implemented this year when the COVID-19 outbreak began. Tasked with various challenges, universities had to make sure that students were well equipped to deal with the new way of learning. UCT Vice-Chancellor Prof Mamokgethi Phakeng is the only African to have been named among Times Higher Education's 10 People of the Year. Prof Phakeng joins us now to reflect on this. Prof, good evening and thank you very much for your time tonight here on News at Prime. First and foremost, congratulations. It is indeed a great honor and a prestigious honor to be given this kind of accolade and recognition. What do you make? I know you're not afraid to poke the hornet's nest. What do you make of the lack of African names on that list?
Well, I mean, I guess, first of all, perhaps it talks to what we do with the opportunities that we have to make our voices heard globally. We get different kinds of opportunities as higher education leaders, African higher education leaders, and people choose to use them differently. And people talk to what they are passionate about, what their leadership is about. And so I guess what it says is what higher education in Africa is passionate about and what our leadership generally is about. I mean, there's only 10 people on the list. So obviously, they wouldn't have been able to list everybody. So if you think about it, we don't know who's number 11, we don't know who's number 15. Who knows whether the next 10 names are all African? We don't know. But it's an honor to be listed, to be on the list of the top 10.
Now, Prof, when you came in as Vice-Chancellor of the University of Cape Town in 2018, a lot was put around the focus on transformational leadership and maybe even a lot of expectation on your part that this is what you're bringing and what you plan to deliver. 2 years on, looking at when you came in and where you are right now, reflect for us on that journey and how you've managed to navigate.
You know, the transformation journey is a tough journey. We have a long way to go. And if truth be told, we could have done better. We've done a lot, but we could have done better. There's no question about that. We haven't achieved as much as we could have. We've transformed the deanship. When I took office, what people don't know is that I took over a university with only 2 substantial deans in office. This rest of the 6 deans had resigned. And so as much as that was a crisis, it gave an opportunity to appoint deans in those 6 positions. And we managed to transform the cohort of deans. So for the first time in the life of the university, the cohort of deans is transformed. And for the first time in the life of the university, we have a Black African, South African woman executive director. But that's not good enough. That's not good enough to just talk about appointments. Transformation is also about institutional culture. And truth is, we haven't done enough. As you saw in the media sometime this year, issues in the Faculty of Health Sciences, there's still issues of racism and people, particularly from previously disadvantaged groups, feeling marginalized and silenced and pushed aside. And we know how systemic racism and exclusion works like in a university such as this. Yeah. And so we haven't done as much as we could have done. I still see it as a challenge. I still see it as the one thing that we need to achieve is to make sure that we drive both excellence and transformation together. And I always say, if we only focus on driving excellence, we leave transformation behind. Our excellence will not be sustainable. So we're driving transformation to strengthen our excellence, to make sure that it becomes sustainable. So we have a long way to go. And that is why the vision that I brought to the university has got the 3 pillars of excellence, transformation, and sustainability. And let me tell you, it's not going to be easy. There's a lot of pushback. There's a lot of resistance. It comes up in so many different ways, but we've got to keep pushing. Not in a way that is divisive, but in a way that unifies us, in a way that brings us together. Because transformation is not just for Black people. Transformation is good for the academic project. It's good for everyone. It's good for our future as a university. And that's why we need it.
Now, in this year of the pandemic, we also realized that we still need to deal with racism, especially in South Africa. But not only that, gender-based violence, sexism, and all those issues that come with that we still need to deal with. Now, you say that academia needs to reflect, academia needs to sit back and think about their complicity in these issues of racism and sexism. How can academia, not just at UCT, but across the board, own up to the role that they play in perpetuating those stereotypes, but what can they do differently?
Well, first of all, I said we need to be humble and reflective. We cannot talk as higher education as if we are high and mighty and we always do things well and we can tell everyone how to do it. Because we historically have perpetuated racism and exclusion. And I think the best way to do this, firstly, having a critical mass of people, of diversity, having diversity in our ranks is the first thing. To recognize that diversity in leadership and in an institution is important. And diversity, not only in terms of race, but also in terms of dealing with the masculinity of power. The masculinity of power hasn't brought us any good. If it did, the world would not be where it is right now. So we've got to bring diversity in our leadership. And with diversity in our leadership, having women, it's not just about appointing people to positions of power. It's not about pushing people up who cannot do the work or cannot hold their own or are scared to speak up or take on the task. It's about bringing people in who can make us think differently about things that we've always done the same way. And when they push us to do things differently, we should not silence them or want to push them out. We should be open enough, because we as higher education say universities are a place of ideas. If we are a place of ideas, then we should be open to leadership that thinks differently, that does things differently, because that's the only way you can have institutional culture change. That's the only way you can strengthen our excellence. So when you appoint people from diverse backgrounds to leadership positions, you've got to support them. You've got to realize that they don't have to acclimatize to the institutional culture, because the institutional culture is in contestation at the moment. Actually, it must change and become more inclusive. And then we've got to rethink excellence. We've got to see excellence, that excellence actually is not unproblematic. Excellence is not benign. Excellence can exclude, can marginalize, can silence, can invisibilize. So we should embrace and recognize and encourage excellence whilst understanding its complexity. If we don't understand its complexity, we will not recognize the different ways in which people show their excellence. We will always want it to show in the same way. We will also not recognize that excellence is enabled. So the fact that excellence shows up in a particular way is precisely because historically it is enabled in that way. You want diversity in excellence, you must enable it in all its diversity. But how do you do that? You've got to recognize that historically, some people were given more opportunity. And so you've got to create opportunities that are exclusive to people who've been historically excluded. And don't say that's not a meritocracy. It is, because the people who've been historically excluded, for them to be here with us right now just shows, first of all, their excellence, because here they are competing with people who've been enabled historically. So we've got to understand that we've got to enable it in its diverse ways, because that's how excellence happens. It doesn't happen on its own. And I think we've got to see that transformation is not just only about appointment. Appointment is important, it brings the critical mass, but it's also about how you enable excellence. It's also about how you recognize excellence. It's also about how you interpret it and showcase it. And then it's also about how you allow people to be themselves in the space, rather than say that's not what's done in higher education, or this is not how a professor has to behave or whatever. If they're not doing anything illegal and it's not immoral, what's your problem? We're changing institutional culture. We've got to be open-minded. This is a place of ideas.
Talking about a place of ideas, world over now, we are talking of a resurgence of COVID-19 infections with a new variant that has been picked up. The role that higher education can certainly play, we've been talking about altering human behavior. Attitude change, more than the vaccines and all the other research that has been done. The role of higher education in that space?
We play a very critical role in this space because as a place of ideas, we explore solutions, right? So we know that when COVID-19 hits, universities, we went into hyperdrive. We've got people who are researching vaccines, who are researching quicker and cheaper ways to do testings, and that work will continue to grow. But one of the challenges, this year has been really great in terms of science. It's almost like the return of science, because somehow all over the world, we can see scientists showing up on front pages of newspapers. We can see national television pausing to listen to a scientist, which never happened before. And this is a good thing. But it also poses a challenge for us as scientists, as university academics, because we've got to make our society understand the practice of science. The practice of science means that you've got to be open to a diversity of ideas. It doesn't mean we will all agree all at once, all at the same time. Even in the research on COVID, when different voices come to the fore, it is not our job to select one or the other. It's for us as society to understand that this is a problem that we don't have a solution to. Scientists are exploring it, perhaps from different perspectives, and they may be arguing, contesting the ideas because there are different disciplines and different approaches to the problem, but that's how we sharpen how we look at the problem, and that's what's going to bring the solution faster. And it's phenomenal that this, within 12 months, within a year, we already have a vaccine that's been rolled out elsewhere in the world. I think it's phenomenal. That's what you see, the power of science, which actually is nurtured at universities, and it's university researchers that drove that work. And we need to encourage that work. And I think we need to see research as not a waste of money, even at a point where researchers start looking at understanding the problem before they start solving or exploring possible solutions to the problem. So I think it's a year of science, and it's a year for the university to show up. And I think we've shown up very well in this regard, particularly on the African continent. I think we've done, I think our researchers came to the fore very well, showing what a place of ideas can offer.
Now, Prof, many might not know, but many maybe do know that you are a thought leader on social media, and particularly when it comes to matters of education. What can people be expecting from you as far as innovation is concerned on those platforms and the type of education that you will be bringing into 2021?
I've been running sessions on social media, on all the platforms. I've just did session number 42 today, and this is the festive season, the Duke series, and we're looking at inspirational stories. And the big idea of the reason why I'm doing these sessions online is, first of all, to make higher education, to make young people realize that higher education is accessible. They don't have to be scared of it. Many of our young people, particularly from Black families, don't grow up with professors. They don't know who to ask questions. And the academic profession may be made scary to them, and it's not approachable. Is to open up this black box and share with them what it takes, and to make them aware that, in fact, they can get it too. So I'm going to be continuing with these sessions, but I'm also doing a radio station, academically speaking, and it's on Radio Bob every Thursday from 8 to 9. And what I'm hoping to do there is to expose even our parents who send their children to university. Many parents do not know how to support their children. Even educated parents do not know how to support their children. Even if a child passes with great results, they assume they're going to go to university and they expect them to succeed. And the only time they call is, have you passed? Have you done this? Or sometimes they burden them with it. So I'm going to be educating parents on how universities work, how they can support their students. I'm going to be educating undergraduate students about how you cope at university, how you can manage to have fun, look good, and still chow costs. Chowing costs is the bottom line. You don't do anything less than that.
Yeah.
But how do you become smarter about this? And I want to bring up my big aim is really to make education fashionable, accessible, and enjoyable. It is not supposed to be a drag. Of course, it is not easy. It requires hard work. But the fact that you work hard doesn't mean you're going to be unhappy and grumpy all the time. You can still have fun, learning, and enjoy it.
Now, Prof, finally, before we let you go, talk to me about this breeding a culture of excellence, but creating linkages and destroying and dismantling this idea of working in silos. Now, I'm talking broadly here in the continent, the excellence of academia in the continent itself.
Yeah. You know, what people don't know, we work together in the continent. We've got the African Research Universities Alliance, ARUA, which is an alliance of 16 African research-intensive universities. We've got research focus areas, 4 research focus areas. We launched centers of excellence. At UCT, we've got 2 focusing on, one on climate and development, the other on poverty and inequality. We work together. We work with universities in Tanzania, in Ghana, in Zambia, and we can only do this work together. But also in South Africa, we work together. I mean, one of the things that I argued that we should have done during COVID, I mean, we saw when the lockdown happened, some universities quickly went online and migrated online quicker, and we went on because we were already doing online. But it is not acceptable that in the same country, we've got one university or a few universities managing within a month to get online and disperse laptops and teaching. And some universities, even if the government gives them laptops, the students are not able to study online. We should share modules online, and then the face-to-face mediation can happen at universities. My hope is that in 2021, we get better at that. There is no time to compete. We are different. We've got different strengths as universities. What encourages silos, working in silos, is this competition that we are this, we are that, we want to be like this. We will never be the same. We are different. We offer different strengths, and we should honor those strengths, and they should be valued differently. And we should. There's no way UCT can offer some of the things in the way that WUSU offers them. And we should value what WUSU can offer. And the fact that some of the WUSU students come here for their postgrad and they do very well.
Right,
So in fact, we can have collaborations in that regard to strengthen both sides. So I think 2021, there's hope there. Vice-Chancellors have been engaging on that.
Prof, when we talk education, I know we can sit on this line for the whole night. But let me thank you for your time tonight. The UCT Vice-Chancellor, Prof Mamokgethi Phakeng.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate your time and thank you for coming through.